He's got the most receptions, the most receiving yards, the most receiving touchdowns, and is broadly considered the greatest wide receiver in the history of the New Orleans Saints. He is Marques Colston.
What's up, guys? This is Mike Carney.
This is Toy Cook.
I'm Randy Mueller.
This is Quinn Early.
I'm Delvin Bro.
I'm Alex Molden.
I'm Jake Cupp. And this is Life of a Saint.
And this is Life of a Saint.
And this is Life of a Saint.
The Life of a Saint.
Life of a Saint.
Life of a Saint.
And this is Life of a Saint. Whodat?
And listen, before we dive into the interview with Colston, stay around till the end because we also spoke with his wide receiver coach from Hofstra, Coach Jamie Elizondo. Some pretty interesting stuff from him as well, but stick around to the end. It's an absolute pleasure to speak with you, Marques. I guess for my first question, we're going to start all the way back in the beginning. Was the reason that you started playing football, is that because of the success that your father had, or do you think football would have found your life regardless of whether or not your father played?
Yeah, I would have found it regardless. So I got three siblings, four siblings. Two of my older brothers, they grew up playing. So like we were just a football house.
Okay. And speaking of your father, I know you lost your father at a young age. What was your relationship like with him?
He was my coach, like for my entire childhood. He was the person, like you mentioned, that got me into sports, got me into a bunch of sports. Just having a chance to work out with him. He was kind of my motivator. He was my support system. It was a really close relationship. And when I lost him, like the first couple weeks of my freshman year in high school, 14 is a tough age. Just entering into high school and losing the person that you look up to the most in the world. A little bit more of a difficult journey from there on.
So I saw you played both football and track in high school, and I assume there was a certain amount of success that came along with it. Is it tough as a high school kid, teenager, handling success?
There wasn't a whole lot of success, to be honest with you. I was a pretty good football player. I wasn't setting the world on fire. We weren't winning a ton of games. I never really put up significant numbers. I don't think I ever had a 100-yard game in my high school career. So there wasn't really, I kind of had to work for everything that I got, and there wasn't a ton of limelight. And just with my upbringing, even if that was the case, I think I would have been able to handle it just because my parents really instilled the value of the work, and the process is really what it was about. And any success or the end result was just kind of a function of the process. That's kind of how I was raised.
I read that you got an offer from Missouri. What was it that made you pick Hofstra over Missouri?
Well, Hofstra was really the only offer that I had for a long time, and I ended up committing to them. And Missouri came in really late after I'd already committed to Hofstra. And, I'm a person of I like to think I'm a person of integrity, and my word is everything. And once I made that commitment, I had an opportunity to get up on campus and meet some of the seniors and some of the older players, the coaching staff there. It meant a lot to me that they were the first team to really jump and give me an offer. And, I kind of went with my gut and with my instincts.
Understanding that D2 players don't quite get the same success rate as far as getting drafted as the D1 guys do. Did you expect to get drafted?
Coming out, I expected to get drafted. Again, it was kind of a slow build for me. I came in as a freshman, played a little bit, started as a sophomore, put up, decent numbers, and I just continued to grow as a player, and really the weight room was probably my best friend. going from 170 pounds to 210 pounds, and I hit like 240 by the time I was a junior.
Jeez, yeah.
And I actually got hurt at the end of my junior year and redshirted what would have been my senior year. So that kind of threw a little bit of a wrinkle in like where I thought I could get drafted. But once I came back, finished my 5th year, I knew that there was a really good shot that I would get drafted. I just had no idea. I'd heard anything from 2nd round all the way through free agent at that point.
Now, I know this is a loaded question, but considering so many people kind of pour into you throughout the course of your career, from when you started playing as a young kid all the way straight through high school and college, who would you say was the biggest influence in helping you get from that kid into the pros?
Man, that's a tough question. There's so many people that had an influence. I would say it's a toss up between my last receiver coach that I had as a senior, Jamie Elizondo. He was a guy that he came into football with a different perspective. I think he was a lawyer by trade and became a football coach. So he just had a real world perspective that it gave me a lot of insight into how to handle any success that was coming, and really just he wasn't really a football purist. And at 22 and getting ready to walk into potentially an NFL situation, that was something that really stuck with me, throughout my career. And then I actually had a friend of mine that actually helped me get into the East-West Shrine game that I ultimately played in as a senior after my senior year. And I think just that opportunity to get out and showcase what I could do against some of the bigger school guys, I think that was kind of a turning point. Because when you come from a smaller school, the number one thing is, if you're not a dominant player, like if you're not a Brian Westbrook coming out of Villanova, they start to question the level of play. Mm-hmm. So getting a chance to go out and play in the East-West Shrine game and play against the guys from the LSUs and Alabamas of the world and show I belonged on the field, I think that was a huge turning point in helping me get drafted, and ultimately a confidence booster for me, because you don't know what you don't know.
Now, in that same journey going from little kid to the pros, what would you say the toughest obstacle that you had to overcome was?
That's a great question, man. That's a great question, because I didn't let myself see any obstacles.
That's great.
Because at the end of the day, there were people that I grew up with and people from my hometown that told me I was crazy for going to Hofstra. I would never be able to make it from that, small of a school. It was just my mentality that, this is, I can't allow myself to see any obstacles, because that creates doubt. And then when you got doubt creeping in, doubt becomes the enemy.
Now, you get drafted in 2006, very late in the draft. What was it like when you got the call from New Orleans, considering how long you had been waiting?
It's funny because it was bittersweet at the time, because I sat through 2 entire days of the draft. I was a couple picks away from being able to really pick what I felt like was the best situation for me as a free agent. And, I got a call from a team that, had just probably been through the toughest haul that any NFL team has had to go through, as they tried to navigate Katrina. They didn't know if they were going to be back in New Orleans, if they were going to be the San Antonio Saints. You really didn't know any of those answers. So to get picked that late, 3 picks away from being able to, naively figure out what the best situation was going to be for myself, to get a call from a team that had so many question marks, it was interesting. But at the same time, I got a call, right? So I was, this was kind of the pinnacle of all the work that I put in. So it was a bittersweet feeling. Obviously, it was a happy time for me and my family, and it was an opportunity. It was an opportunity to go to work and prove that I belonged, and prove that my dream was worth all the work.
Okay, so staying on that, if you hadn't been drafted, if you slipped all the way past the end of the 7th, you're a free agent. Were you already thinking about a team or a couple of teams that you might have been a really good fit for?
Yeah, like in my mind, I thought Arizona would have been a good fit at the time. And silly me.
It all worked out all right. Yeah.
Right.
Obviously, when you head into the NFL as a draft pick, you've got a lot of pressure to make the team. Add to that a late round draft pick. And then you end up going to a team that's just getting through Hurricane Katrina and trying to get their feet under themselves. Did you feel any pressure during the process to go, to immediately make an impact?
You know what, man? Looking back on it, I had tunnel vision. Like, I knew where I got drafted. I was smart enough to understand, what the odds were. I didn't really care about the odds, but I was smart enough to know that they existed. Of a 7th rounder making a roster. So for me, I had tunnel vision, man. My sole purpose every day was to earn a job and to keep it. And with that kind of focus, you understood pretty quickly how important football was to that community at that time. But there was really no pressure that could have been more than, earning a job and keeping it at that point for me.
So once you did get your foot in the door, was there anybody that took you under their wing, showed you what it's like to be a player in the NFL?
Yeah, I was just we had some really good vets at the time, Deuce and Joe. Joe Horn, just having a chance to watch those guys work was really the thing that I needed. Because you come from a smaller school, a smaller program, you feel like you're working hard, but when you get to this level of play, you start to realize what hard work really looks like. And just seeing a chance getting a chance to watch those guys practice and what went into their preparation. A guy that really stood out in my mind was Fred McAfee. Just seeing a guy that at that point was 12, 13 years in, still grinding on special teams every day, still doing all the dirty work. He was somebody that was really instrumental as he was, whooping my butt in special team drills at the time. Just seeing somebody that had that much respect, had done that much in the league, worked that hard day in and day out to keep their job. That gave me a really interesting perspective as a 22-year-old rookie.
So you walk in the door in 2006 after a couple of away games. You get to your first home game, and it's the return to the Dome game. Obviously, a pretty crazy, when you go back and look through Saints history, a pretty crazy regular season home game. Did any game, did you pretty much pinnacle as far as like regular season home games? Is that like the greatest you ever experienced, or did anything kind of approach that moment?
Yeah, when you start at that point, the only thing that came close was the NFC Championship. Like, there was no other regular season, postseason game outside of the NFC Championship that came even close.
Gotcha.
And for that to be my first experience, that's when I started to realize how important football was to New Orleans and the greater New Orleans area. I'd never felt anything like that in my life. Gotcha. And, minus Garrett Hartley, kicking a game-winning field goal to send us to the Super Bowl. I'd never witnessed anything like that again.
I'm literally getting goosebumps as you're talking.
I don't really remember back in 2006 when you were drafted what the expectations were, but you had absolute immediate success, like right out of the gate. What do you attribute that to?
Honestly, the right place at the right time. Coming in as a rookie, I was fortunate enough to walk into a situation with a new head coach that had, to prove that he belongs, and a GM and really a system that said, we don't really care how you got here. The best players are going to play. And, just kind of seeing that play out throughout training camp, it just gave you confidence as a player that, all right, I actually do have an opportunity. They're not just going to look at me as the 7th round pick that's a project. They're going to look at me as a guy that if he performs, he's going to get an opportunity. So just kind of having that as your background and your foundation to work from, it kind of put the onus on me to really get in the playbook and try to figure out how to make myself somebody that could become indispensable.
Gotcha.
So, the physical work was one thing, and figuring out how to work and how to train. But for me, I think that the biggest competitive advantage that I got was really learning the playbook and really coming in at a time where the veterans had to unlearn everything that they knew before and learn and relearn a new playbook, whereas I was learning everything from scratch. So I took the opportunity to learn every single receiver position that I could, and be able to get plugged in and know what to do and where to be, and that was, I think, instrumental in the Drew and the coaching staff building confidence that I knew what I was doing.
Now, there's a million different directions you can go with this question, but what was it like for you going through that Super Bowl run in 2009?
It was crazy because, like, thinking back, like, we kind of ended up in an NFC Championship game my rookie year, and I would argue that none of us really understood how we got there. So you go through the next 2 years of subpar seasons, and we coming in 2009. Everybody feels like they start the preseason, with the feeling that they could win a Super Bowl. But the start that we had got off to, I think it really hit me, the Monday night game against the Patriots, how good we could be. And I think that was maybe 2/3 of the way through the season. And, to be able to do that to that opponent on national TV, I think was the moment I realized that we could be, a really, really good team. And the thing I remember the most about that season is just the competition throughout the week. Like, it felt like going against Vilma and that defense, Wednesday through Friday felt harder than the games at some points. Just that level of competition and competitive fire throughout the week in practice. I mean, the saying is iron sharpens iron, and that's what that season was really about for me.
I would guess you've been asked this a lot of times, but where did the Quiet Storm nickname come from?
Man, that goes all the way back to like my sophomore year at Hofstra. I don't know who came up with it, but as a young, dumb kid, I got it tattooed on my triceps at age 19, and it's been with me ever since.
So with everything that you accomplished throughout your career, is there anything that jumps off the page as something that you're particularly proud of?
Nothing really tangible. And what I mean by that is, like, I had never been someone to really play the game for accolades. I played the game really for respect. And the thing that means the most to me is that all the teammates that I played with all the opponents that I played against, if they respected the work that I put in and they respected the work that I put into my craft, that's really all I cared about. That's why I didn't really care about Pro Bowls. I didn't care about, stats. I didn't care about any of that stuff. If my peers respected me and respected the work that I put into it, that was it for me.
It's pretty well documented that throughout the course of your NFL career, your entrepreneurial career also started. You didn't wait until you retired. What was the reasoning behind that?
Honestly, I got into like my fourth or fifth year. My off seasons were always filled with like surgery, postseason surgery. Just the way I played the game, I would get beat up. I would continue to play throughout the season. I would have a surgery in the off season, and it quickly became like football was a year round thing. I was playing football during the season, and I was rehabbing all off season. And 3 or 4 years of that, and like I just kind of hit this place mentally where I had to figure something out to be able to unplug mentally. And at that time, it was an opportunity in my hometown. It was a pro indoor football team that was coming to town, and somehow they had reached out to me to invest. And it was just the timing was such that I was looking to try and do something different to take my mind away while I was rehabbing one off season, and I ended up investing in this team. And I call it 2 years later, the chance to really get engaged and start to learn some of the business popped up, and I was kind of hooked. I got a chance to take a look under the hood, start to figure out really the other side of the sport that I was playing, like what really went on and how do you actually run the business side. And I kind of spent a year as a partner, just learning the business. The following year, I bought I bought the other partner out and took over full control of it. And for 2.5, 3 years, I spent my off seasons literally running every aspect of the organization, from sponsorships to marketing and ticket sales, game operations, football operations. And it became a way for me to kind of learn the other side of the sport I was playing, but ultimately it was a chance to really unplug mentally and challenge myself in a different way. And what I didn't realize was, at the time, wearing so many different hats, it gave me the foundation of all of the business that I would get into, down the road. Just literally learning on the fly the way that I did. And when you're going into sponsorship meetings, to try and sell somebody something of value, they couldn't care less how many passes you caught on Sunday. They really want to know if I cut this check, what's going to be the impact and what's going to be the return on my investment. And for me, I thrived on that, because that's ultimately what I never wanted to enter into something and not be respected for the work that I put in and the value that I could create. And when I got a taste of like that first door getting slammed in my face, it really motivated me to figure out this aspect of the business independent of my football career. And that's what kind of lit a fire and has driven me ever since.
In interviews prior to this, I've heard you use the term irrational confidence. Is that something that kind of found its way into your life throughout the course of you playing football, or is that something that's more like hardwired within you?
It's kind of been like the foundation of it's kind of been ingrained my whole life. Just the way I was brought up, and in that if you really want something, it's okay to dream big and really shoot for the stars, as long as you're willing to put in the work to go and get it, because it's not going to come to you. And just seeing my parents, go out and live their lives that way and go create their own opportunities, I think gave me the tools to believe that I could. And, just the whole process of my journey through football really reinforced that. There's not a ton of people that come from Hofstra that get drafted. There's not a ton of seventh rounders that go on to play 10 years. And, studying the numbers and being a numbers person that I am, you understand that those odds exist, but you also understand that you can offset the odds and, shift the odds in your favor, by outworking everybody. And, my approach has always been, this is not just a job. This is my craft. And, my goal is to master the craft, whether it be receiver or team owner or general manager. My job is to master the craft. And once you can do that, it allows you to really take the uniqueness of your abilities and use them, in strategic ways that create advantages.
I can see that you're going in a lot of different directions business-wise. One of the things that I saw you get involved with is speaking to younger players and kind of teaching them how to get involved, being an entrepreneur, taking care of their finances and things like that. What made you want to be a part of something like that?
I think a lot of my experiences were kind of a motivating factor. Obviously, a lot of things have gone right, but I've failed in business a lot more than I've won. I think that's just the nature of the beast. And I think when you're an athlete and you have visibility, you always have something that people want and people try to leverage. And the thing that helps you leverage it on your own terms is being educated and being knowledgeable, so that you can't get taken advantage of. You're always kind of in control of how you want to move situations forward. And my motivation for starting some of these programs is just that. When you have the visibility and the leverage, and you can supplement that with the knowledge and the education, you just put yourself in a much better position to win. And more importantly, you put yourself in a position where it's harder for people to take advantage of you.
Okay, one more for you, Marques. You got involved in the entrepreneurial world, obviously, like I said, before you left the game. I know a lot of athletes, when they leave the game, it's a really tough transition, kind of trying to figure out what they're going to do in the next stage of their life. And you've got all this competitive juice and kind of like no outlet to put it anywhere. Did the fact that you were so involved with business kind of help that transition away from your playing days?
Yeah, absolutely. I think leaving football is a transition. I started playing when I was 7 all the way to the time I was 32. So when you take a thing that you've been able to become an expert in, and then all of a sudden you got to change gears in a day and figure out something else in a time where this is the way I look at it. Like, I retired at 32 and I had to go out into a world where I'm competing with people that had done their business and mastered their craft for as long as I played football. And now I got to compete with that from scratch.
That's true.
So, having a leg up and kind of getting a chance to be in that world for a handful of years before I was done playing, it gave me a level of confidence that I'm not really starting at ground zero. I'm kind of trying to midpoint this thing, but it gave me it gave me an opportunity to really dig in, and I actually look forward to not being a part-time business owner, but a full-time business owner and entrepreneur.
Okay, that's all we've got for Marques Colston, but we've got Coach Jamie Elizondo on the line. Coach Elizondo, I guess I'll kind of open the floor to you. I mean, we're speaking about Marques Colston. You were the wide receiver coach while he was there. What was he like? What do you remember about Marques Colston during that time?
Marques was an exceptional talent. I think his greatest jump came from when he made it to the NFL. But he was just a unique individual in the sense that he was not a big party guy. Wasn't concerned with what other people thought. He had a vision for himself, and just kind of. I think the most unique thing about Marques, and we stayed in contact when in his first year, we spoke throughout that first year, second year, and he would say I'd call him and say I noticed a couple things, and so we talk on the game a little bit. But the beauty of Marques is he was the same person before he became an NFL player. So same guy consistently through college, and the NFL didn't change him. And I think that's one of the most unique things about him is that he was so well grounded, and that's a tribute to his family, and he just. There's a lot of guys that end up changing when they make the NFL. They get money, they get accolades, they get attention, and he just never changed. He stayed grounded, he stayed humble, he stayed hungry, and I think that carries over to the success that he's had off the field as well. With his business and his desire to give back and to help others. And I think that's one of the most unique things about him is the humility, the wanting to give back, the appreciation. Look, every NFL player has a lot of people that sacrifice on their behalf. When you make it to that level, right, John? There's a lot of people that have sacrificed and believed in you, and I think Marques appreciates that and understands that, and values that, and values in giving it back as well.
Life of a Saint, episode 20. Marques Colston in the books. Thank you, Marques. Thank you, Coach Elizondo. Thank all of you for watching up until this point. As of recording this, we are at 980 subscribers, 20 away from 1,000. Feel free to subscribe, give it a like. You want to share it with a friend, anybody that likes Colston, which there's got to be a whole lot of people that that like Marques Colston. He's maybe the most likable guy ever. In any event, thank you so much for sticking it out. Who dat to you, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.